Welcome, everyone, to the next installment of Althea Tells the Truth. Tonight, we are talking about the 1212 portal and the Merkaba. So I'm going to start with a waiver and a disclaimer. None of the information that I'm sharing tonight is not meant to contradict, replace, override anything that you have received from a mental health professional or from a medical physician. Everything I'm sharing tonight, we'll just say it's for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a licensed mental health or medical professional before using any of the information that I share tonight. All right, so I'm going to keep going and quickly give you a little feedback as to who I am, especially for people that are coming to the Althea Tells the Truth series for the first time, or you're newer to the body of work that I have. In the 90s, I unintentionally began manifesting things. I would have literal visions while I was awake and active, and those visions would come true. They would come to fruition and manifest big things, like seeing the house that I now live in, seeing the bus at the end of a cul-de-sac and my kids going to school when I lived 10 hours away in a different state. So that all started happening in the 90s. When I moved to Atlanta from Maryland, I opened a yoga studio in 2008. And that's when I started diving deeply into Eastern spirituality, not yoga on the mat, but yoga as a lifestyle, and really getting into the yamas and niyamas of how you live in a yoga way, living the Yoga Sutras, getting deeply into chakras, and understanding a little bit more about how energy moves in and around us. Then in 2014, I went through a very important awakening. And during that awakening, I became very aware of the clairs. I always had the ability to dream and see visions and have them come true. But this was the first time that I was able to clearly hear voices talking and telling me to do something, and I could listen to them and see the outcome. And so when some people hear hearing voices, they think of that in a negative way. This was very positive. It was positive for me personally, positive for my family, for friends, for clients. We were helping people around the world. And when I say we, them, they, the spirit team, and I, with the things that they were sharing with me in sound. So all of my clairs came online: clair empathy, clair sentience, clair audience, clair cognizance, all of the clairs. And I really started getting into nature connection then. Animals started talking to me, whole story for another time, but that's how I really got into animal spirit messages. And then that's when I started diving into numerology, not again by choice or on purpose, but numbers started coming at me in repetition and patterns to the point where I had to learn what they meant so I could understand the messages. In 2018, I started doing a lot of energy work and understanding crystals and how to use crystals to change the energy vibration around myself, others, and even situations. I became a Reiki master after a year of study, one-on-one with a Reiki master, and then started using sound healing at that same time. In 2019 was my first experience, first with the Sedona fire walk, and some really powerful magical things happened in Sedona. But then a few months after that, I had my first experience with psychoactive, psychedelic, hallucinogenic plant medicines: ayahuasca, mushrooms, sananga, Hape, and that continued, Iboga in 2020, and it just continued until today and now. And I've spent quite a bit of time in the jungles and in different countries, learning from traditional medicine healers and continuing my work and following the calling that's been on my life. In 2020, I started moving into understanding weather and how we can actually manipulate it if we're doing it for safe and good reasons, and not to manipulate it just because we can or for monetary gain. I also started communing in the ocean and doing a lot of water work with waterfalls and lakes and rivers. And then I began seeing portals through the star clusters and communicating very specifically with beings from other galaxies, planets, star clusters through the portals, which brings us to why we're talking tonight. Because 12/12, December 12th on the Gregorian calendar, represents one of those portals. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. So I want to spend just a moment talking a little bit about ancient civilizations. Now, if you guys were with me for my very first Althea Tells the Truth about 3 or 4 months ago, I talked about some of these ancient groups being the Lemurians. Here you see Lemuria, 400,000 years before Christ. You see Atlantis being right before during the time of Lemuria and right before the Egyptians. And then down here, you can see some of the other ancient kingdoms like Sumeria. You see where Atlantis falls after the kingdom of Sumeria. And then we start to see the Great Pyramids, the Egyptian mystics and the mystery schools, the Indus Valley, and then we start to see the pre-Inca. So here's the Olmec, here's the Aztec, here's the Maya culture, the Inca culture. All of this is happening around this 10,000 BCE. And then we start moving into our current era. And then right around here in this 4,000, 3,000 BCE is where a lot of the information that we use now comes from, because a lot of the things started being written down. Right around this time here, coming from like this Egyptian time to present, they were using different symbols to record things. So this is really important for what it is that we're going to be talking about tonight. And some of you remember that in the first one that I did a few months ago, I said, hey, I want to find out, are you guys a level 1, like you're just starting to dip your toe into spirituality, or are you a level 5 and like you're in this, you're researching, you're doing things, you know your clairs, you're manipulating things with your gifts. Tonight, we're level 4 or 5. I'm just going to say that. So even if you're new to spirituality, I think this information is really good information to have. And I will be giving you resources to use for your own research later. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about symbology and symbols. All of those ancient cultures that I showed you, the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, even the early Egyptians and the civilizations that just predated them, there wasn't a lot of written language then. Everything was done in symbols. And with the Lemurian time and the Atlanteans, it was a lot of frequency vibration. There was not communication with words the way that I'm doing now. And one frequency could mean a great deal, kind of like some of these symbols. These pi, for instance, is pi for me to just say it, pi, but it represents a never-ending number. It represents infinity. This represents infinity, no beginning, no end, continuing, no death. This, the Ankh, represents masculine, feminine coming together, the key to life, continuing life everlasting. These are the symbols of the seasons and weather and water and the Celtic tradition. This is a Ghanaian symbol from the Ashanti kingdom, meaning never look back, continue to move forward. We know yin and yang, the opposites, the polarity. Nothing can exist without the other one in being. So symbology meant more than just what a word could give. Frequency communication and sound, like sound healing, it evokes something in you when you hear it. When you hear somebody sing a song, it can move you to tears. If you hear a certain type of music, you want to get up and do something, right? So this 12/12, this portal We have to go back to talking about symbols so that it can make sense what I'm going to talk about at the very end, because this portal opening is connecting where we are in our present moment with how things have been in ancient times and the future of where we're going, and they all coexist as one.
I have heard about the ancient civilizations, but putting it all together that the way you did, it had not been explained to me before, and I get it. And I have been walking this path probably maybe about 5 or 6 years. I understand the clairs and some of my gifts are becoming more prevalent now as well.
Very good.
Clairsentient, a lot of those. So I won't take up too much time because there's so many of us. But I'm aware and I am here to learn.
Excellent. Thank you, Lala, for sharing.
I love just seeing the timeline of different civilizations. I've heard of them separately and, here and there. So that was significant for me.
Thank you for that, Adrienne. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit, since I mentioned to you that the symbols are bigger than like letters in a word. We have individual letters and letters have a sound, but that sound doesn't mean anything unless we put all of the letters together and make them make words. The word doesn't mean anything unless there's other words around it to give it context. When we talk about numbers, we could talk about numbers from a quantifiable, like measuring distance or measuring the quantity of something, or we can talk about it like symbols where they carry energy, and the energy of them has a meaning. So I'm going to go into the symbology of numbers. This is usually on a base 10 system, but with numerology, it goes beyond. I'm going to give you the base numbers being from 0 to 9. 0, anytime you see it with another number, it means you're starting from nothing. Ground zero, clean slate. If you add that with another number in a pattern or sequence, let's just take 090909, then you would take the meaning of 9 being completion, ending, and transition, and it would mean the transition into something brand new that's never been done before. Ending transition, going into something that's never been done before. So you can be as creative as you want to be. That's the importance of understanding the meaning of the individual numbers. 1 represents new beginning, starting fresh. 2 has many different meanings, but on a short to the point level, it's usually about balancing 2 things, bringing harmony, the duality of things, fertility. So you want to think masculine, feminine coming together for the creation of life. Anything that is 2 things but together is the number 2. 3 has a lot of power in it, but when it stands by itself, it's about expression, communication, creativity, manifestation. The number 4 is all about being very patient, doing something for the long haul. It's not going to happen right away. You have to have a lot of perseverance, and you should be doing things with integrity, doing it as honestly as you can. 5 always represents change and adaptation, being able to adapt to whatever is coming, or you are creating the change that others will have to adapt to. 6 is related to partnerships and relationships, and the bottom line is it comes back to love. 7 is everything that falls into the category of spirituality and spiritual cycles. 8 has to do with infinity and abundance, the continuation of things, and expanding beyond the single and simple thing. And then, like I said in the beginning, 9 is about endings, completing something, and transition. 7 has a similar meaning to 9, but it's usually in a spiritual cycle of something. When we start to get into the double digits, like 10, or repeating numbers like 11, 22, 33, they carry different meanings than just the number as a standalone. Sometimes, like for instance, with the number 1, 11, 111, it can still mean new beginning, but it means on an expanded level, like a big awakening. a spiritual expansion. 777 means like something pretty powerful is about to happen on a metaphysical level, not in our material space. So the numerology versus the numbers is what we're not versus, in conjunction with the quantifiable purpose of numbers is what we're going to do tonight. 1212 is the portal key code for the Merkaba. So I am going to talk about geometry tonight. So I'm going to talk about numbers in a mathematical, quantifiable sense. And then at the end, I'm going to go back to numerology because they work hand in hand with the portal. So before I go to the numbers, let me first talk about the Gregorian calendar. When I say Gregorian calendar, I mean the calendar that was created by the Romans during the Roman Empire. Prior to that time, the world operated on a lunar calendar. There were 13 months. Full moon, new moon was a cycle, and that was usually about 28 days. So we had 13 months that existed in the cycle of time that we would be moving around the sun. When the Roman Empire took over the world, like many times, they decided, hey, we're going to change everything and make it what we want it to be. And so then it became 12 months with January 1st and December 31st being that 365 days, hence us needing to have a leap year because we don't have as many days in February, right? Well, we wouldn't need that if we stayed with the lunar calendar. At any rate, when we talk about December 12th, I'm talking about the Gregorian calendar. This is a period, depending on where you are in the world, where you are either in winter, getting ready for the winter solstice on 12/21, going into a cold season of being inward. But if you are in the other part of the world, this is actually going into summer. You're coming out of spring and you're moving into summer, which is a time to come out. Regardless of where it is, it's shorter days, longer nights, or it's longer days, shorter nights. And that's coming up in about a week. So this 12/12 portal is very important as we get closer to 12/21. So now that we understand that we're talking about today in terms of the Gregorian calendar being the 12th day of the 12th month, but I'm going to move away from that. I just chose this day to do it because it was 12/12. I'm really talking about the Merkaba and the 12/12 key code. We know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we know how numbers work. But the base numbers of 3, 6, and 9 are really important. For anyone who's done any research on the science and the inventions from Nikola Tesla, they know that Nikola Tesla believed that 3, 6, and 9 were the keys to the universe, all science, all energy, everything. So I'm just going to talk a little geometry really quick. This is a right angle. This is 90 degrees. When you open this little line out like this and it's a straight line across, 90 plus 90, so that let's imagine there's a 90-degree angle here, it's 180. 1 plus 8 plus 0 is what? This thing right here. 9 plus 0 is this thing right here. And both of these are divisible by 3. Okay, so we're back to our foundation of 3. If you have a 90-degree angle, open to another 90 degrees, you have your 180. And when you add 180 and 180, you have a complete circle of 360. 3 plus 6 plus 0 is the magic number of 9. Okay, so everybody's like, yeah, that's really simple. I don't get why Nikola Tesla said 3, 6, and 9 are the keys to the universe. If you double any integer, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. Remember in I didn't tell you that part. In numerology, If a number is doubled, you add it to get back to a single digit. So 16 is 1 and 6, that's 7. Keep track of what I'm saying. I've said 1, I've said 2, I've said 4, I've said 8. I just said 7, okay? So where was I? 8 plus 8 is 16. 16 plus 16 is 32. 3 plus 2 is 5. You with me? 32 plus 32 is 64. 6 plus 4 is 10. You're back to your 1 and your 0. I have said every number except 3, 6, and 9. Those numbers do not appear if you continue that cycle of doubling numbers and adding, doubling numbers and adding. They will never show up. Nikola Tesla's belief is that those numbers were gateways and portals that would take you from this material world that is defined by things that relate to the integers of numbers from 3D into the 4D and beyond world. So these numbers are important, not just because they make up the geometry of everything, but now we come to the Merkaba. 3 sides and a triangle. Nikola Tesla was also a fanatic about pyramids. He created energy towers that were in the shape of pyramids because he believed that this is how you could harness power. For those of you that have done your research on the pyramids, you know that the pyramids are more than just tombs for ancient people. They are considered to be on the surface of the earth, the covering of the pathways and the portals that would take you into the center of the earth. And there are civilizations and cultures that are down in the center of the earth. So humans were seeded by those ancient cultures in Lemuria and the Atlantans and the Sumerians and the Olmecs and all of that. But there are cultures and beings that are down in the center. So if you take this pyramid, this harness of energy, and you turn one upside down so that it points down toward the earth, and one that points up toward the sky, and you put one inside the other, this creates the Merkaba. Hence the combination of all the 3s, the 6s, and the 9s. If a human is in the center of this, the energy circles around our heart. This all comes back to love, Christ consciousness, the unity of all things. If you take all of these points and put circles at the ends of them and circles on the inside, you will end up with 12. You being the center. In a base 10, I'm just going to go with me on this math stuff, okay? And then I'm going to come back. In a base 10 system, 0 to 9, it is a finite system, meaning that everything ends. It has a beginning and an end. It dies. That's why plants outside at the cycle of seasons, they die and then they come back. We as humans, we have a life cycle, we die. Well, the ancient beings did not necessarily die. The only reason why they had to be taken out is because they began doing things they weren't supposed to do, like blending animals with humans. And so the other beings had to stop that because that would destroy the earth. And the earth is very powerful. It has a lot to do with all the other galaxies. So all the beings want Earth to stay here. They don't want us to blow it up. Atomic bombs and wars, we can kill each other. But when we start destroying the earth, they're going to make that stop, okay? So the 6s that come to the 12s, that is infinity. That goes on forever. So a base 10 system will always be birth, death, beginning, ending, finite. That's always divisible by 2 and 5 to get to 0, okay? Every rational number that has a denominator of 2 and 0 is probably going to come back. It's going to be finite, right? This has to do with decimal points and tenths and hundredths and thousands that always comes back to 0. A fraction has a finite decimal expansion, but irrational numbers can be expressed as unique decimal numbers where the sequence neither recurs and it never ends. That's the important point, like pi. So the Merkaba is based on 12 because everything in the 12 system is connected, is infinite, and we are as one. We're not separate individual entities. 12, when broken down, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 33, Christ consciousness, global awakening. That is what that number means. Just like I told you, 11 means like an expansion, awakening, a newness. 11 means like the whole world is awakening. Well, that's the same thing with the 33, but it's done with love, and it's manifesting and bringing things into reality from a space of love. In the Indian yoga tradition, there's meditation that includes pressure points of the fingers and the hand for the meridians, for the energy in our body. When we press, like in acupressure and acupuncture, points of the body along these pathways, these nadis, these meridians, then we alter the energy flow in our body. If during a certain type of breath work, you were to press on the tips of the forefinger and the thumb, or the second finger or the middle finger and the thumb, the pinky finger, 2 of the fingers together, these are known as mudras. But when visualizing yourself in the Merkaba and doing this breath work, bringing things up from the earth and pushing it back down, bringing things in from what's above in the ethers and other galaxies into you and pushing it back out, pushing it out through the heart space, receiving it in on the backside of the heart, and imagining those pyramids spinning in each direction as you breathe in and blow out with the navel pulling in. This increases your energy. This increases your chi. This increases your ability to manifest your dreams and desires as long as it comes from a place of love, of oneness, of helping.
Hello, love. During my experience with you and our plant-based ceremony the first time, when I got past the chaotic area and relaxed into the amethyst room, all I was seeing were these geometric symbols and numbers flying around me. Is that because, without even knowing what a Merkaba was at that time, was I in tune and within the Merkaba subconsciously?
Yes, and we are always in it.
Okay.
We can't see it because we're in the 3D. And
I've got my little Merkaba here with me.
There it is. So there are Merkabas that are necklaces. You'll see them as earrings. You'll see them like see-through pyramids on mantles. It's a vortex of energy. It's creating a vortex of love energy.
Talking about connection, but I just wanted to share with Angie. I saw the same thing that night that we shared space in the amethyst room. And so that's the 2 times that I've spent significant time in there in plant medicine. I could like see the crystals talking to each other through the room and all of that. So I was in that same space.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be upset that this is my first time hearing about this. I'm just going to let that go. and remain in the Merkaba of love.
May I add to that, Althea?
What did you say, Daddy?
I said, may I add to that?
Please add to it.
Because in the other part of the sanctuary, with the men, remember all of the symbols that were around me that I tried to get rid of, and they were bothering me. I'll tell all of you, it was bothering the hell out of me. I wanted to get rid of it, and I couldn't. And there were these symbols, and there were all these colors moving and combining themselves. So yeah, it was there, Adrian. Yeah.
They're everywhere. I've had people in other rooms altogether saying, do you see this on the wall? So the wall is a solid color in the sanctuary here. If you all have ever come for any experiences, the walls are all solid. There's no mirrors, there's no paintings. It's on purpose. So you can see all of the sacred symbology. Now, here is why this is so important, you all. Thank you, Angie, for that question. For astrology, almost all of the planets are moving into new signs. Some of them have been where they were for 145 years, some for 60 years, some for 20 years. But we're moving into a phase of time where they all, over the next year to 2 years, will be moving for the first time into different signs. We're moving into this, we've been moving into it, so it's not new, but this collective consciousness, this collective awakening. What we're supposed to be doing with this is getting connected and in tune with things beyond the 3D. If you stay connected to the news, if you stay connected to the outcomes of elections, if you stay in fear, you will not be able to help everyone move into the collective consciousness, the stuff that's all around us all the time, but we're not able to always see it in our 3D realm. The importance of doing the breath work, the mudras, if you so choose, plant medicine. You don't have to do plant medicine for this stuff to start to come to you. I showed you my early timeline on purpose. I wanted you to see that plant medicine was the second to last thing that has happened for me. So you don't need that. Don't get caught up in it. But you do have to understand how this energy is working, even though you can't see it, so that you can stay in it as you move in chaos in the 3D. That's what this portal is about. It's about you stepping out of what you think is reality and creating your own new reality, and doing so in a way that touches everyone around you so that we can shift what's happening. Now, we're having this conversation in so-called 2024, moving into 2025, right? Imagine what was happening with those ancient cultures. And now imagine them trying to communicate with us here. Now I come back to the metaphysical gifts. This is why I keep pushing for you all to pay attention to your ability to hear, to see auras, recognizing numerology, claircognizance, just knowing things and you don't know how you know. Don't figure out why. You don't need to worry about why. Take the information and do what the teams are asking you to do. If you're on this Zoom right now, you most likely volunteered to be here on the earth for this time to do a job, and you just don't remember that you volunteered. My job is to tell this information to you so you will go remember why you're here and do what you're supposed to do without fear. That is my job and my purpose. If you and I cannot heal our human ills and traumas, we will not be able to do what we volunteered to do. and we will remain stuck in the human cycle of death and rebirth. You have to get beyond 3D so you can step into your gifts and start doing without fear what you came here to do without distraction.
I don't really know how to put it into words, but I know that we're supposed to be, based on what you're teaching, we're supposed to be focusing on the love element. And I put a question in the chat: is duality allowed? And the reason I say that is I'm going through a healing process of letting a toxic relationship go with family. And so there is, yes, I let it go, but also I do want reciprocity. And I believe that's my right. So that there is an element of love that's not there. So, but do I need to let that go? This was an abusive stepfather.
The only person we can control is us. And many times we can't even control us. If we're expecting and wanting something from someone else, we're setting ourselves up to be stuck in the cycle.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
Can I add a quick comment to that, Althea?
Yes.
I was stuck in a whirlwind relationship with my parents. Well, not with my mom, after my father passed away. And I went to a therapist, a Christian therapist, because that was the right thing to do in 1996. And this lady told me something that I'll never forget, and it was the most profound thing at that point anybody had ever said. And she said, "What are you so upset about?" And I said, "Well, I expected her to act like a mother." And she pointed her finger at me and she said, "Your own expectations are what hurt you." So I no longer have any expectations from anybody. And whatever I get that's good is a loving bonus moving forward.
Oh my God. Help me today.
Hey, and Althea, in the chat, somebody asked for clarification on human ills.
Yes, this is going back to belief systems. If you believe that this runs in my family, therefore I have it too, you have it too. If you believe I have a heart problem because I have a heart problem, it is true. That's what you believe. However, most of our physical ills can be traced to something that's emotional, spiritual, or mental. Most of them can be traced to that. If you live in an environment where there is toxic waste in your water, or there's electric cables and cords right overhead, that's a little bit different. But I'm talking about something when you go to the doctor, you have this problem, they can't find anything wrong, and they give you pills. The pills won't help because most likely it's something emotional, mental, or spiritual, or it's trauma left from the past that you haven't allowed to heal just yet. And it's okay because time isn't real. So you have to take your time and not be mean to yourself as you go through the process. That's what I mean by our ills, because we're kind of making ourselves sick with our self-talk and our beliefs.
And then to kind of flow from there, there was also a question in the chat about where does one start? And I assume the question is around the trauma and ills because that's when the question popped up.
That's a great question. So we heard therapy already on here. I am a huge proponent of therapy and finding a good licensed therapist that fits your personality and your needs. If you have to go to 5 or 6 until you find the right one, keep searching until you do. I think that's a good place to start. I do think silent time, meditation, prayer, whatever your God perception is, I think that's another place to be. But if your self-talk is kind of negative and you can't get past that, that's when the plant medicines can be helpful. And I don't recommend them for everyone, because if you are taking medication, you won't be able to use any of the psychoactive plant medicines. There are non-psychoactive plant medicines. And I will tell you, Hape is a healer and a help. That's why you see me doing the Hape sessions every month. It is non-psychoactive. It is legal in the United States. And there are a plethora of different combinations that can be very helpful for clearing your mind, resetting your central nervous system, and giving you a base to work from. So those would be my recommendations. Therapy, self-silent meditation, guided meditation, if you want to do that. Silent retreats are really good. To shut down all noise, it's tremendous for helping you reset. And then plant medicine as an option if you're willing and a safe candidate for it. That's a great question. Thank you. I'm going to put into the chat, and for those of you that are on the recording, it'll be at the bottom of the screen, the Merkaba meditation on YouTube. It's free, so that you can just listen to it and do it. And it'll tell you visualize, which is why I did the slides, because I wanted you to be able to see what these things look like, so that when you sit with your eyes closed and hear the guided meditation, you can visualize the pyramids moving in the directions they're talking about and where they're pointing, because you are a channel. You are a vortex of energy. It's not something magical outside of you. It is something magical outside of you, but you're that, and that is you. You know, because we're as one.
Emily asked about Solfeggio frequencies as well.
The frequencies are really powerful. I recommend going on YouTube, and they're in different hertz, and the different hertz have different sounds. Some are very resonant, and depending on you and your frequency, they'll match up with you, and you will come into resonance with the frequency, which will lift your vibration. But they're all different. All the hertz are different. So some will say, hey, this is for crown, for mental expansion. Hey, this one is for heart. This is for forgiveness, self-love, and loving of others. This is for grounding and getting back down on the earth. So you want to find the frequency or the hertz that matches what it is you're trying to do. And if none of that makes any sense, just listen until something resonates with what sounds good to your ears. I do that. I'll just turn on YouTube and go through and play. No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. No. I like that. And I just let it play in the background. This goes back to, we don't need to analyze everything to understand it. Some things we just have to trust and go with the flow, because we are a vortex of energy, and the energy is all around us. So if you trust your inner knowing and frequency and sounds and all of that stuff, like your attraction to something and the pushing away from other things, it can usually steer you in the right direction. Notice I use the word usually. The YouTube of the meditation. It's a 17 breath meditation that takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So you don't need like 30 to 45 minutes of your day.
Althea, can you address the question that you just addressed a few moments ago that someone asked, that was, where does one start? So you addressed that question as it related to healing from trauma or human ills. But the second part of your conversation just a bit ago was healing from trauma was the first part, and then answering the question, what am I here to do without fear or distraction? So could you apply that question, where does one start, to the second piece? And I wanted to just, let me just expand on that one for just a moment, because I think, I think what maybe, and maybe I'm not, solo in this, I think my perception is that oftentimes we're sort of doing bits and pieces of that. What am I here to do? I think we often don't realize we're doing it. We're not really recognizing that we've already started to do it. But I think it's what I'm saying is, how do you go from you're sort of doing it accidentally or without realizing it to doing it with the kind of clarity that you just described that you're doing it?
Yeah, that is a really good question. Thank you for that, Sadari. Can you all tell me what you recognize about these dates and the time?
Well, I mean, I think what stands out to me, and this, I'm not sure if this is what you're getting at, but what jumps out at me in just asking that question is that you were doing these things gradually over time, maybe before you were doing it with the kind of clarity that you just expressed.
That's correct.
That's sort of a part of what I see.
Yeah, that's correct. And so one of the things that I think is important is to be patient and consistency. Keep doing it over and over again, surprising yourself, journaling about it, writing it down. And one of the first ones of these, the Tell the Truth, I think I showed you all like all the journals. My journals date back to 1988. The ones that I still have with me here go back to 1998. That's when I started having the visions. I think you all need to start recording the things that are happening to you, that you're manifesting, that you're doing, how you're touching people, and you need to pat yourself on the back. You need to recognize it. If you don't recognize it, say thank you for it and keep doing it, it'll fade away. We also have to probably overcome some of us, some of our conditioning and programming, because some of us are conditioned to think, not me, somebody else. Oh no, that couldn't be me. No, you wouldn't want me to do. Are you talking about me? Yeah, they talking about you. Yeah, you're the one. That's why I keep saying you're the one you've been waiting for. So I think practice, recording it, and having a tribe, checking in with somebody and saying, hey, what magical things are happening for you? Here's what's happening for me. The tribe makes it so much fun to do your magic work, and they'll let you practice on them too. Play with your magic. I said it in the very first one. And every time you start to self-doubt, call somebody in your tribe. They'll get you back on track and tell you how magical you are. Here's what I want to do. Everybody on here, if you're not driving and you just tell me something magical that you did this week, that would be considered like a clair or something out of the ordinary. Something that you knew before it happened. You almost could finish this person's sentence. You knew the song before it played. You knew the person was about to call you. They called. You picked up your phone before it rang, and then it rang.
Yeah,
Just
that does happen quite a bit for me.
Put an example of what I mean. Like, you have to pay. If you can't write it right now in this chat, you're not playing with your magic yet. You should be able to write 2 to 3 things. So if I come back and do the Zoom next week on a Thursday, and I ask the same question, everybody should be running to put it in there. That would be an example of practicing, constantly recognizing it and taking note. For a lot of us, I forgot who said it. It's so common for you that you're not even thinking about it, but you have to like talk about it, because it's not normal for everybody. I love Melody's comment. Too much to type. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so Marcia just said one. This one happens all the time. She said she was thinking about someone. She'd been thinking about them all week, thinking, God, I got to call them. I got to call them. And then sure enough, they reached out. Yes, that's another one. She said she'll think that she needs to cancel a meeting, and 2 minutes later, the person will cancel. So you're manifesting. That's why I put in my timeline, I was a manifester. If you all are paying attention, you're doing that. That's why you have to be careful with your negative thoughts. Manifestation doesn't know negative and positive. It just knows manifestation. So if you think, oh, it's all going to hell, everything in your life is going to hell because you said it, you believe it, and you think it.
So, Althea, I kind of have a follow-up question to what you're discussing right now. Do you think, and I think probably like we're hearing all of these things from the group, we probably all are recognizing many things in our lives, many things that we've been doing. Do you feel like these experiences and gifts and what people recognize, does it always have to translate or turn into or manifest itself in a formal way? For example, the way yours has. Yours is very definitive, clear, you're teaching publicly. Or is it sometimes just something that stays in the background of someone's life? They're doing it, they're having impact. It's just not a publicly recognized kind of thing that they're doing it. They're just doing it as sort of a part of their everyday life, or does it have to express itself in a more formal capacity?
That's another good question. No, it does not have to express itself in a formal capacity.
Okay.
As long as we're touching someone, you just have to touch someone. And it doesn't have to be with you doing anything. You could just be sitting in space, just putting out good energy.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to the mall. You can go to the gas station, get out and pump gas and just say, hey, I'm putting out good because this is what I do. This is my gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Narquenta, were you going to say something?
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened. Like it's not that it happens so much that I'm like, oh, I don't believe that it's happening. It happens that I don't believe it's happening, or it happens to everyone. It happens so much, like all the time, and it's specific. Sometimes it's specific to age groups of people, mostly children. Like I always catch a child's attention, or they're always like staring at me, or I always get someone that's elderly, that just comes out of nowhere, and then they just start talking to me, and then they'll tell me things like, oh, I don't know why I'm telling you this.
So can
So
I
it
ask
happens.
you, why do you think that's happening, Narquenta, with children and elderly people?
um I think, well, I think that I'm in tune with them in some way. I think that I don't know so much for the elderly, but for children, I'll put it like how my husband says. He says that I still talk baby talk. Like, he's like, when children are small, they have, a certain, I guess, innocence or this thought process. And he says that I still have it as an adult and they can see it. And so that's why I connect with them. The
Okay.
older people, I don't know. I think they just kind of trust and have a feeling of trust, or something.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Dr. Henry.
It's not that they have a trust. They see your aura. They see around you.
They're in tune with your vibration.
Yeah.
Children under the age of 7 and seniors that are closer to transitioning than having another 50 to 60 years to live. They're in connection with that energy on those ends, and you're carrying it.
Yeah. Little children, I guess one of their favorite places with me is I'll walk through Walmart, and honestly, I've never seen these babies in my life. And sometimes I'm walking around with 2 babies in my arm. They don't know each other, but they are fighting to get to me. And I've had the experience that you were talking about. I was sitting in a Olive Garden. I remember it so clearly. This older lady came over to me and she said, my mother and we see this glow all around you. They said they could see the glow, and they came over to my table just to touch me. I'd never seen a glow about me, but they did. So it's not that you've got this, you're talking baby talk. They see what you don't see.
It's the energy.
It's the energy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both, Narquinta
Yeah,
and
thank
Daddy.
you. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I want to go back to Sadari's question really quick. There in the book Autobiography of a Yogi,
Mhm.
Yogananda. Well, in that book, he talks about a woman who did not eat food. She literally didn't eat anything. And the community took care of her. She didn't talk. And she lived like in a small town on the side of a mountain. But if she touched someone, they would be healed.
Mm.
And the community protected her. She didn't go and speak at the public fair. She didn't do anything. She was in her small community. And Yogananda heard about her and went to see her to see, was she really this gifted, and saw that, yes, she was touching people and healing them. And when she would get tired, they would take her back to her place. She didn't speak and she didn't eat. Those were the two things. And she lived. So we already knew that she was a mystical being because she could live. You don't have to be big with it. I'm just doing what they told me to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They told me, put this out. Whatever they tell me to do, even when I don't want to do it, I do it. If they say, build your house, I learn how to freaking build a house because that's what they told me to do. If they say, go to the jungle, I go to the jungle. If they say, learn Spanish, I learn Spanish. None of it makes sense to me at the time that they say it, but I'm obedient.
Right.
And I think if we would follow our nudges more, Emily and I just had a conversation about this today. When they call you, all you got to do is just say yes and suck it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great distinction, because I think for me, there have been just tons of things over my life that I felt inspired to do, done them. Many of them are just small things, and you just kind of journey in life with those things and that kind of following. But I think sometimes when you get into these conversations, there can be this idea or this concept that the strands of things that you're doing are supposed to turn into something more official or more formal. So I think that was, it's great to have your perspective on that, to sort of let go of the pressure that it's supposed to turn into something and just let it be whatever it is throughout your day-to-day life, however small or big or formal or informal. And I think that's something, I've kind of struggled with a little bit in trying to make that distinction, to let it be, and let go of the pressure that what is it supposed to be or what is it supposed to turn into. So maybe some others have had that thought as well.
Yeah. I think not having any expectations on self is just as important as not having any expectations from others.
I love that. I think that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. That's a great conversation piece. Anybody else have thoughts or questions?
I have a comment on this particular subject. When I first started out on this level of my journey, it was thanks to you, Althea, and I went really head first, and I went big with it, with workshops and with traveling with groups and becoming part of a docu-series, and thinking that I had to go big in some way with my gift. And it's my gift. I get to choose who to share it with. I don't have to listen to the noise around me of people who are wanting to monetize my gift within their circle, and them inevitably taking advantage of my gift in that respect. So I had to be very careful of where I chose to insert myself And I had inserted myself so many places that when my mom passed away a year and a half ago, I have withdrawn, and I'm not as visible because I no longer want to be who I think they think I am. I want to be my authentic self and be who I trust that I am without their interference. And the people are coming to me just because they're drawn just by mere collaborating on an incident, which is not coincidence. It's collaborating on an incident. And then the gift comes to light in a more authentic way and an organic way, not because it's been forced in any shape or fashion.
You know, one of the things Angie said in the beginning, I know I really struggled with that, where I was trying to do what I thought could be done with my abilities. Like I was trying to get onto certain TV shows and to be a speaker on the stage and do all this stuff and be included in the book. And it just wasn't working. So I decided to stop trying. And then when I stopped trying, then people started calling like, hey, would you do this? Would you do that? So I think it also goes back to our conditioning, especially if we're here in the United States or for people who might be in Europe. We're really conditioned, and I just know it's not right because I'm seeing it in the meditations with the visions and the things they're telling me. It's the opposite of what we should be doing. We're not supposed to be pushing so hard for the fame, the limelight, the money. We're supposed to be able to take care of our needs and have our comforts, but the excess is not necessary, and the limelight is not necessary. In fact, the limelight sometimes will detract from best use of the energy. And that is why the Tell the Truth series are free. I just want the conversation, and I want to do what they told me to do.
The word try is no longer in my vocabulary.
Absolutely. If I have to try, I don't need to do it.
I either pick up the phone or I don't pick up the phone. I pick up the pen or I don't pick up the pen. I don't try to do anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Two things, and I don't know who said it, but someone was saying something a moment ago about they did something little. In my experience, there's nothing little, because when we label something as little, we degrade the beauty of what is being manifest through us. The other is a saying that I've had it for a long time. And I think sometimes we need to be reminded of it. And it goes like this: be who you is and not who you ain't. Because if you ain't who you is who you ain't. Just be who we were created to be. Not big, small, or otherwise.
Thank you for that share.
Althea, we have a question in the chat about clarifying. Melinda said she's new to the space, and if you'll please clarify who is they when you say they.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. For me, there are a collection of beings. Some of them are from star clusters. Some of them are from other galaxies. Some would be considered the God presence, depending on what your religious belief is, whatever your term of God, the one is. And the one is like a collective energy that's greater than anything we could imagine. That's the one. So the one and those beings, they download information to me, or they're talking, and I've asked them to come in one voice because sometimes they're speaking in a different language or with a strong accent that I can't understand. So I just hear one voice clearly say something or it downloads information and I refer to them as they. If you listen to Abraham Hicks, what does she call him?
Well, I think she's Esther and she calls them Abraham.
That's it. She's Esther Hicks and she calls them Abraham, but there are multiple entities that are coming in one voice. It's the same thing. That's a very good question. Thank you. I just know that they want the earth to succeed in continuing. That's what they want. They need the earth to continue. If people like us don't continue to communicate and share energy, then the powers that be in different countries that are greedy and just want more territory and control, they'll take over the earth and they'll destroy it. So they're asking us to do this work with each other so that we can lift the vibration and create a reality that we actually have the power to manifest if we believe it. I've been invited to go to the jungle in Colombia and sit for a month to learn about a lot of healing plants. They're all like the medicine leaders of their tribe and their community. About 7 or 8 years ago, some of these tribal leaders started receiving visions and downloads that it was time for them to start sharing the information about the plants, that they weren't supposed to keep it secret anymore. They have been told for centuries, keep it secret, keep it secret. Now we're close to a decade that they've been receiving the message. It is not to be kept secret. If things are downloading to you, if you're having dreams, please start sharing what's coming to you with someone. It's going to make a difference. There is no such thing as too big, too small. There is no such thing as big platform, small platform. Tell somebody. You will know who you're supposed to tell. And if you tell the person who you weren't supposed to tell, you'll know that immediately. Don't tell them no more.
Hi, I just wanted to say something that's a little bit related, but really goes more toward knowing what your gift is and using it and just following your gut even when you think it's crazy. So last week, I facilitated a 2-day corporate retreat, and the culture is so bad that there's all these allegations of racism. People were planning a walk out of the corporate retreat. It was a disaster. But at the end of the first day, so many painful things had been said. I was so exhausted that I fell asleep at 8 o'clock, and I woke up at 1 a.m, and a voice just said, "You have to do a healing meditation for them." And I thought that was crazy. And I went in and I said, "I need you guys to, give me some grace. I'm going to do a recap of what we did yesterday. But I've been, I know it sounds crazy, but everybody closed their eyes." And people started sobbing like in the first 5 minutes. It went on for 15 minutes. But I found out from the CEO that the people that were planning the walkout, the people that said they were never going to speak, those were the ones that ended up speaking the most that day. And people just coming up to me and saying, "I don't like that meditation stuff, but I feel much more calm, or I feel clear, I feel lighter." Or people saying, "You were speaking directly to me." So it was just an example of, and I was doing a little bit of Reiki on them. They didn't know because they had their eyes closed, right? And so, but none of the words came from me, but they all were exactly what people needed to hear. And to see people like sobbing as I'm doing this meditation, it was really a testament to kind of just, you got to follow what that gut is. I just did it. And it ended up being something that really worked out very, very well. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much for sharing, Marcia. And so from what she said, I'm going to challenge everyone on here. The next nudge you get to do something that you're uncomfortable with, I'm challenging you to do it. Even if it seems insane, even if it seems crazy, I want you to do it because you got the nudge. And you'll know when it's kind of like a nudge that's not from you.
Althea, I know you always like to touch on mental health. And so for the people who are new to this, can you share a little bit about, making sure they're safe, kind nudges, and
Yes.
if it's
Thank
not
you.
a nudge, it's not spirit.
You always keep me accountable, my friend Adrian. So if you are hearing voices that are not your own, that are telling you to do something dangerous, to yourself or to others. I need you to immediately go to urgent care, emergency care. I need you to check yourself in. That's very important. If you are having extreme mood swings, please make an appointment, get an assessment. There is a very fine line between metaphysical gifts and something that could be a chemical imbalance that you may need some medication for to get you stabilized until you can decide what to do next. So that's really important. And thank you, Adrienne, for bringing that up. Melody, I saw your hand, and then we'll come to you, Lala.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm going to say thank you. This was so mind-blowing and amazing. I had a past life regression a long time ago, and a piece of it was shown to me tonight. My very first past life regression is I'm in Egypt, and I'm leading this mass meditation of thousands and thousands and thousands of people in front of the pyramids. And as we're all sitting there, we're channeling this energy and we're shooting it out of our hearts into the pyramids. And this energy is shooting straight up into the cosmos out of all of the pyramids. As we're all on all four sides, we're all surrounding it, right? And then that was it. I didn't get the other piece to that puzzle. I was like, what was I doing? What were we doing? And tonight, when you were talking about these pyramids being portals to the inner world, I realized that we were moving those pyramids out of the way so we could all retreat into Middle Earth. That's what I was doing during that time. And that's wild to me.
Yeah.
It's also wild because there's a pyramid in Atlanta that I have been to that people don't know about. And I've been inside of this thing, and it is very powerful. And the man that built it said, "Built this for you." And he was somebody that was a part of my past life. And it was just so weird because I was like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? Like, this was years ago. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this pyramid. I've been inside of it. I've meditated inside of it. I did this whole, this part of the priestess process. We did this whole meditation where, we died, like this death and rebirth thing and whatever. And I did that inside of the pyramid, and it was all magical. The Merkaba, when you were saying that is when you get into that meditation, you can get into these portals. And I've been searching for someone to help me with that, because when I did ayahuasca for the first time, I saw what I believe God was, and it was circles, and it was little tiny circles, and it was big circles, and it was all different colors, and they were spinning at all different speeds, and it was literally everything that I looked at. And when I got back from Peru, I was talking to a man that does pranic healing, and I was asking him about tantric yoga. He was like, "This is wild. You shouldn't be asking for that. But if you must know, go and look at this on the internet." And I'm like, okay, it was a book. On Amazon at the bottom where it's like suggested reading, there was The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. I don't know if you guys have read that book. But when I got that, I was like, that's it. That's what I saw. That's God to me. I was like, oh my God, I have to get this book. And then it sent me on this freaking journey of trying to find out what is this Merkaba, because when I read that book, it's about ancient Egypt. And I was like, I already know all this stuff. Give me the good stuff. I need to know what this Merkaba is all about. So I know there's a lot to unpack, and I didn't mean to ramble on, but thank you. Thank you. Because I needed this. This was a piece to the puzzle, and I just needed this. So thank you.
You are very welcome. And I'm glad that you're able to kind of connect your past life to your present life. And have you already done the 17 breath thing inside the pyramid?
No.
Oh, it guides you through it with the pressure points inside your pyramid, but you should do it alone. Don't do it with anybody else.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm totally going to do that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Really quick. So earlier we were talking about the different clairs. So I think claircognizant, is that the one when you know, like you just know something? And so my question is, the Merkaba, the breathwork meditation, because is that something that helps you visualize the outcome and visualize how to handle it? And the reason I'm asking the question is because I'm literally reliving things that I experienced 3 years ago. And in this role, I feel like I'm getting a do-over in a good way. So I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Because I don't want to miss this. It's part of the assignment. I feel like there was like warrior energy, advocate energy, all these things lining up. I mean, rising up for me. And I'm like, I don't want to operate in anger. I don't want to just lash out, but you know what I mean? So the question is, is that breath work and possibility to get an answer? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I am about to put another book into the group, Beyond the Flower of Life. This one, I think, does a good job. This is the same lady that does the 17 breath on YouTube because she was directed to put it out for free for people to get from them. So this book talks about how you prepare to go into the 17 breaths. You don't just go in there and start breathing. You actually have to set the stage by creating your intentions. Your intentions for your life, your intentions for your body, your intentions for your energy. And then once those intentions are set and you go into the breath work, the energy is manifesting. There's nothing for you to do. You just show up as you are with your gifts. I think that's in line with what you're talking about, where something that's happened 3 years ago, it's coming back. It's like you're being prepped to do something. You just need to set the intention of being used for the positive outcome of something and bringing up the vibration of the organization and the people that you're interacting with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish I knew what chapter it was in the book so you could jump right to that, but the whole thing is good. So.
Okay. All right. I'll find it. Thank you so much.
And I don't know if Makiba's on here, but she referred me to that book maybe a year ago, and we passed the book around and around, and now it's come back to me.
We had a question earlier. Angie asked about having the Merkaba around like during sleep as a way of downloading, or your thoughts on that?
I will tell you this. If you just sit before you go to sleep, turn everything off and just say, as long as it's safe and it's loving, I'm open to be a vessel for a download. You can put any crystal you want under your pillow and around you, but you are the crystal. You are the portal. You are the vessel. You're it. The crystals can help us, but you're the biggest crystal you got. So if you want to have a one-on-one session with me, let me bring it back up on the screen really quick. This QR code will get you straight to my booking link so we can do an appointment. The link has been updated with my Chicago schedule and my one for Atlanta. Other than that, I'll be available on the phone and by Zoom. I want everyone to be safe, be magical, share the love. Keep breathing, share the love. That's all we have to do. Thank you, everyone. Peace, light, love.